You're giving freely, you're showing compassion, you're establishing justice, okay? You're maintaining your soul. Yeah? That's you creating the conditions for it to receive God's blessing and God's knowledge, and you to receive that. You're creating those conditions to be in the presence, closeness, proximity to God. Okay. Now, the other thing I just wanted to mention, the Prophet ﷺ said that the Salah is the Mi'raj of the believer. Yeah, it's the ascension of the believer. And the Prophet ﷺ in the Mi'raj, what did he do? He went to all the different realms of existence. He went to different levels and heavens of existence. And so this shows you that the whole idea of this vertical part is that you have to work on this. The Salah isn't just your physical form. You just go down and bow and that's it. There has to be some inner reflection. Yeah. So remember I talked about the TARDIS. You have to populate your inner experience, yeah, with things, not just emptiness. Yeah, not just emptiness. And that's through your reflection, through your pondering, through your, you visualize things. So your way to connect with the non-physical is through your imagination. And later on, Allah talks about parables that are going to come later on, because that's our way of connecting with something that's so abstract. Okay, so وَبِالْآخِرَةِ هُمْ يُوقِنُونَ. Yeah, and in the Akhirah they are certain. So again, you see the connection starts with the ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابِ, with the unseen, the ghaib. And Akhirah, what does the word Akhirah mean? Now, most people say it's hereafter. And the Quran uses the word Akhirah in not just that sense of the Akhirah, it means the non-physical world. So in Surah Rum, it says, يَعْلَمُونَ ظَاهِرًا مِنَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيا. They know the outward of this life, but وَهُمْ عَنِ الْآخِرَةِ غَافِلُونَ. But the inward, they are unfamiliar. They can only see the surface, cause and effect. They can just see the pen moving, but not the writer. Yeah? They can just see the surface. So the Akhirah is here and there. It's the ghaib, is part of the ghaib that you can see. Those are the principles that are governing, connecting you with your reality. Okay. Then there's a shift in the discussion. Okay. So remember we talked about the idea of maintenance, of taqwa, of maintaining yourself, weeding out all the necessary things, protecting yourself so you can flourish and grow. Okay. But what happens if your ability to see, to notice the ghaib gets covered up, diluted, corrupted? Okay. And this is where we come to the next set of ayahs, talk about Inna Ladina Kafaru. Can somebody give me a verse reference for that? Inna Ladina Kafaru? 6. So from verse 6, we're talking now about the situation where your ability to see and notice the ghaib becomes affected. And the word kafara literally means to cover up. Yeah, to cover up. And so the people who are disbelievers are described as those who cover themselves up. So for a moment, I want you to just bracket all your theological concepts. We're going to talk about in terms of the ability to see the ghaib clearly, and then your faculties being covered up from kafir here. Okay? So not in a theological sense. So somebody could be on the spectrum of seeing here, not in the theological sense. So what is your spiritual sense and spiritual faculty like? Is it totally visible here? Or does it get to a point where it gets so corrupted you can't see anything? And this is why Allah says, خَتَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ وَعَلَىٰ سَمْعِهِمْ وَعَلَىٰ أَبْصَارِهِمْ غِشَاوَةٌ. Their hearts become sealed. They don't notice anything. They don't see. All they see is the physical. And that is our challenge for us, because we are conditioned to think only on the physical cause and effect. Yeah, all our education, our upbringing, our culture, the scientific age, the technical age, the self-help, everything is about the physical cause and effect. The strategization, everything is about physical cause and effect. But then what happens then is you can't notice the spiritual, you can't notice Al-Kitab operating in the universe. You don't notice the Al-Kitab, the blueprint of God operating. And so your spiritual faculty gets covered up. And this is picked up later on. There's 2 parables that are mentioned in a couple of verses afterwards. Okay, so the first one is Mastaluhum kamasal lazistawqada nara. Well, can somebody give me a verse reference for that? And just make a note of these. So Mathalukum is the first parable to help us understand this idea of being spiritually blind. this idea of losing our spiritual sight. 17. Okay, so verse 17. Okay, verse 17. So make a note of that. And let me just briefly explain that parable. You can read along if you want to. So the situation of somebody who's totally corrupted their inner faculties, a spiritual sight, is like somebody who lights a fire in the darkness of the night. Okay? Kindles a fire. And the fire, when it takes flame, it illuminates everything around. And you can see everything around you. Okay? But what happens then is those people who are there, Allah takes their ability to see away. So despite the fact the fire is there, illuminating everything, they've got eyes but they cannot see. They've got eyes but they cannot see. Yeah? And that's the metaphor here, that spiritually everything is visible here. They've got the spiritual sense, they've got the soul, they've got the connection with the ghaib, but they just can't see it. They just can't see it. They just can't see it. And this is part of the process what happens when, our maintenance becomes faulty. Yeah? So people who are in this situation, they are not denying the truth because they can see and then they're still denying it. They just can't see it. Yeah. وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They don't even realize. They don't even realize. And from people they say we believe and in God and the last day, but وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They don't really believe. They don't really understand. They don't even realize. And the reason why they don't realize is because they can't see it. Just like imagine if you're wearing certain glasses, you can see certain part of the spectrum. No matter what somebody says, you just can't see it. So you're going by what you can see. So your spiritual insight has been corrupted and affected because your vertical connection, you're not giving enough time inside to the inner world. You're not giving enough time to reflect, ponder, think, engage with the ayahs, which is the horizontal side. You engage with ayahs that you can see. Yeah? So that really is... Come in. Are you joining this session?
After you're finished.
Okay, we don't finish, just give us 2 minutes. So let's go back to this idea of maintenance, of corruption, of your sight, insight. And so your challenge as a human being is how do you maintain that faculty of insight? The Adam alayhi salam, as humans, we had that, and then we were put on the earth where our main access is the physical, but the physical can only be accessed through the mind, reasoning, through our senses, through reasoning. And so reflecting, thinking, pondering, all that will allow you to understand that there is a ghaib and reflect more. And once you create those conditions, you will get that miraj experience in your prayers because you've got that. Okay. So our challenge then is how do we maintain that condition that we don't cover up, we don't get corrupted, and the solution comes in the next ayah. So it says Ya ayyuhan nasu u'budu. Ya ayyuhan nasu u'budu. So I want to just finish up with this idea of worship. And notice here that the whole of humanity is addressed. And worship, now we translate this as worship, but it doesn't really cover what the word abada means. Okay? Now, first thing to notice is that the whole of humanity is being addressed, not just the Muslims. So there's no obligation on them to worship. Yeah. So what is being asked of them? Okay. So I'm just going to wrap up because I think everybody else has finished here. So abada, if we finish with this last concept, okay, worship doesn't really cover it, but this contains 3 concepts. So first one is know that there is some power out there, some force. Know God. Yeah? Know. So first is you can't embark on the act of worshipping first without knowing that there is some power, there's some force, there's some conscience out there that's controlling, governing, who's implementing the Al-Kitab out there. Yeah, because we see the structure, there's order in the universe. That's the Al-Kitab. Okay. Second is the ayah وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And some of the commentators say that means لِيَعْرِفُونَ, to recognize God. So you know there's some power, then you recognize that this power is that source, that one source. So you recognize and then you align yourself, you connect yourself with this power. And so, align, and notice I'm using the word align instead of worship, because worship is we don't have any lived experience of worship in our society anymore. But alignment is you aligning yourself with the values of God. And so abada means, guys, we haven't just finished yet. Can you just join us in a moment? We haven't finished yet. Just give us 2 minutes. Just give us 2 minutes. Okay. So the idea of abada is, as a human being, you recognize there's something beyond the physical. You know there's something beyond the physical. You recognize that there's one source, one power that's controlling this, and you're accountable to it. If you look at societies where there's a lot of oppression and exploitation, why do the exploiters and those who are oppressors, why don't they stop? Because they know there's nobody beyond them. There's nobody can stop them. There's no fear, no accountability. So the idea of recognizing this, that actually there is some accountability. There's some accountability. And so abada then means that you ensure there's justice and fairness. So all the prophets, when they came, they had one message. وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا نُوحًا إِلَىٰ قَوْمِهِ فَقَالَ يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ. They wasn't asking them just to prostrate and do sajda. They were buying to bones and stones and so many. Doing one more prostration would have made no difference to them. But what the issue was, they didn't want to recognize. Guys, if you could just give us 2 minutes, please. We're not finished yet. Thank you. So, they didn't want to recognize there's some power out there that's going to hold them accountable to ensure there's justice, fairness, compassion. Your alignment with the values of God. And the core values of God are compassion and justice. Yeah? And that was the issue. So all the prophets, they weren't defining it as or just bowing down to another God, because they had no problem with that. They were already worshipping so many. But the problem they had was with this, knowing that there's a force, they recognize that force is just one force and you're going to have to be accountable to that. And the expectation that you have to establish justice and compassion. Yeah? And that is the universal definition of ibadah, and all mankind are invited to that, establish that. Okay, I'm going to pause there. We didn't get to the Surah Adam al-Islam, but maybe next time, inshallah. Okay, Jazakallah, thank you very much.